It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. We are watching front row seat, a once in 100 years smackdown of a Republican leader. And look, you know, the reality, you knew this was coming. I said, you know, before the break, the theme of the next 2 years, Republican House Clown Show. Here we are, front and center, 2 days of, well, you know. And what I love is my congressman Scott Perry, pardon me, Perry, took to the House floor yesterday, declared the government corrupt, broken, can't get anything done, and then proceeded to show us that there's nothing going to get done, and in the most corrupt way possible. I mean, the amazing part of this to me is the corruption that is right before our very eyes. Because what's amazing to me is, and if you listen to what's going on, they're bartering with McCarthy for their vote. These handful of Republicans, these 20, they are bartering they're selling their vote to McCarthy. And not for things that are going to benefit their constituents. Scott Perry's not bringing back any infrastructure back to my district. Scott Perry's not bringing home the bacon. Those 20, they want stuff. They want committee assignments. They want to be able to take trips and focus on their pet projects of enriching themselves, not their districts. And this is the part that's, wow. Can you believe it right in front? And this is what a patronage government looks like. This is what Republican government is going to look like. Nothing's going to get done for you or me or we the people. No. It's for the egos. It's the performative stuff. Republicans did accomplish one thing today, though. In a 216 to 214 vote, they adopted a motion just a little bit ago to adjourn. They came in at 8 o'clock. They worked 45 minutes or so. Didn't get anything done. Heck with it. Let's go home. Time for dinner. Miller time. They'll adjourn to the next day, noon, on Thursday. And you go, well, they didn't have, no, they don't have anything together. They don't. The reality is we are watching right before our very eyes a once in 100 year event. We are watching children destroy our government. Now, I happen to think back in November when Kevin McCarthy was so sure he was going to be Speaker. He said on the very first day of the new Republican-led Congress, we will read every single word of the Constitution aloud from the floor of the House, something that hasn't been done in years. Well, it wasn't done yesterday, wasn't done today, not going to be done tomorrow. And what's interesting to me is, again, Republican House Clown Show, McCarthy actually moved in to the Speaker's office. So sure, he had the votes. Which is what is really kind of rich about this, because that means that some of these 20 who are going to be his nightmare if and when he becomes Speaker, and I said this before the break, I want him to be Speaker. I want this for him. I want him to have the 20 headaches that are going to be nipping at his heels every single day and threatening him every day to throw him out of that position. I want this for him. Because here's what we do. We know absolutely. Doesn't matter who the next Speaker is going to be. The next 2 years is going to be chaos and nothing getting done. It's going to be, as my congressman, Scott Perry, proclaimed yesterday from the House floor, it's going to be corrupt, broken, and not getting anything done. because that's what we're supposed to. This is the performative governance that we're supposed to expect. And this is what Republicans are going to give us. Now understand, the heavy 20 that are holding all this up, there's no downside for them in this. This is what they want. This is what their constituents have voted for them to do. So, tying up government, shutting things down, getting nothing accomplished, helping no one, that's the goal. And continuing to say it's all bad, it's all broken, government's broken, so that we can do what? Well, we can privatize. Clearly, governance of we the people is not possible anymore. This experiment of you and me and us coming together and figuring out how we're going to move in a common direction, that's out of vogue. We need a CEO. We need a company. We need privatization. Because this is how they do things. They break it, and they say, look, it doesn't work. And then they say, we're going to fix it. And then they break it more. And they go, oh, wow, this doesn't work. We need to privatize it. Profitize. That's what we're seeing. The other part of this that I find interesting is that you've got Donald Trump, who I'm kind of thinking has lost the grip. The genies are out of the bottle when Lauren Boebert goes to the floor and says that Donald Trump should stop calling us and call McCarthy to tell him to resign and to step aside. Donnie, I think you've lost control. It's interesting, though, when Donald Trump is warning about embarrassment. Wow. When Trump is worried that you're going to embarrass yourself, that's something. It really is. And I've said this for a while. McCarthy has no one to blame for this whole clown car. McCarthy's got no one to blame for the Republican car going off the cliff. No one. But himself. McCarthy deserves everything that's going to come his way. And I said this before. I want it for him. But here's the thing. You and me, we the working people of this country, we don't. We deserve a government that is functional. We deserve something that is going to help feed our needs. Inflation is real. Republicans don't have a plan. You may not like what the Biden administration has been doing, lowering drug prices, investing in infrastructure, doing things to try and bring jobs back to the country. You may not like that. But they're doing something. These guys can't even agree who's going to lead them into the chaos. Now, you've got some people going, well, we need a consensus candidate. I saw Brian Fitzpatrick, the Republican from Philadelphia. His name was floated as a possible, it's a Kevin McCarthy ally. He could get some Democrats. And here's my message for Democrats. Don't you freaking dare. Don't you freaking dare bail them out again. Did you not learn your lesson from throwing Marjorie Trainwreck Green off of her committee? This is their baby. This is their albatross. This is their problem. Let them deal with it. The country needs this. The country needs to see the Republican Party for who they are. The do nothing, get nothing done, corrupt party that they have always been. The country needs it. It's like therapy. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off and going, oh yeah, this is why you don't vote for these people. And look, you knew these 2 years, nothing's going to get done. Nothing substantive is going to get done. In fact, they did so much in the last 2 years. We got to get that stuff rolled out. That infrastructure bill, got to get that rolled out. Got to start rebuilding stuff. But the country needs this. They need the in our face. And Democrats, please don't come to their defense. Don't come to their aid yet. Eventually down the road, you may have to. Democrats may have to save the country from the Republican abyss, but not right now. Weeks down the line, maybe. Not right now. They're already talking about, like I said, Brian Fitzpatrick, Mike Gallagher. They're talking about, a consensus candidate that Democrats could vote for and a handful of sane Republicans. I'm going, really? How many of those are left? You got Ro Khanna, who I like. We've had Ro Khanna on the show a number of times over the years. He said that he would consider the right Republican. I'm going, really? There's one of those? I said he would consider the right Republican someone that he could trust, like Brian Fitzpatrick, Mike Gallagher, David Joyce, he threw out. But he said there needs to be 2 conditions. He said, 1, you can't have the debt ceiling debate or shut down as something that takes the country hostage. And I agree, we should do away with the debt ceiling. Completely do away with it. It's ridiculous. It's not helpful. The time that you complain about spending money is before you spend it. Ask anybody who's run a budget. When the credit card comes due, you don't then fight over should we pay it. You pay it. The other condition he has is he said that there has to be some agreement on subpoena power. He said, but I'm open to a Republican who could work to put the interests of the American people first. Now, I'm not against that. Again, these are Democrats going, we want to accomplish things. We want to get things. We want to do what we were sent here for, without understanding that Republicans don't want this. Republicans want to lay on the floor, roll around, kick and scream like a 2-year-old in the cereal aisle after mom said, no, you can't have the Lucky Charms. For instance, South Carolina Republican Ralph Norman repeatedly has voted against McCarthy, says that if Republicans can't agree, they should go to Democrats to help find a speaker. Because, we need help. He said that quote, he's willing to shut down the government rather than raise the debt ceiling. Is McCarthy willing to use that tool I just talked about? Is he willing to use it? He said that's a non-negotiable item. This is what Ralph Norman wants. He wants to be able to use the debt ceiling to continue to hold us hostage all down the line. And this is why Kana's position is kind of interesting, saying, no, we're not going to do that. This is what he knows the Republicans want. Now, my question is, okay, you take the debt ceiling away. What other budget tricks are they going to use to hold us hostage? Because, look, Republicans don't run out of ways to harm this country. There's always a next. For instance, there are some Republicans who say, well, maybe Steve Scalise. Maybe Steve Scalise is the way forward. The guy who spoke at the white supremacist neo-Nazi event said that he was like David Duke without the baggage. Yeah, that guy. He's the suitable replacement. Clown show. Did you get your popcorn? Because it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
I am a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I feel very connected to my West Virginian roots in being part of a union. We've always been known to generate energy here. Renewable energy would definitely help generate jobs and get people back to work. If we don't start bringing in more jobs, more and more people are going to leave. Solar, wind, hydro, these can help reinvigorate West Virginia's economy. It's time to give West Virginia a chance.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1916. That was the day of the Youngstown Massacre. It was World War I, and the demand for steel in war production had skyrocketed. Steelworkers at Republic Steel went on strike in late December of 1915 to demand a wage hike and overtime pay. They also wanted a decrease in the work week to 48 hours and improved safety conditions. Workers at the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company soon followed. The number of striking workers grew to well over 13,000. It was on this day that some 6,000 strikers, their wives, and children gathered at the bridge across from the gate at the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company, intent on stopping scabs from entering the plant. Guards at the mill left company property to confront the strikers at the bridge and began attacking them with tear gas and live ammunition. The upheaval would soon spread to the business district of East Youngstown. By the time the dust settled the next morning, several blocks of businesses were destroyed. While at least 3 strikers lay dead, another 30 were seriously injured at the hands of the company-hired guns. National Guard troops were called in to quell the disturbances. A grand jury convened to determine the cause of the disorder. They ruled that over 100 companies were in violation of the state's Valentine Antitrust Act and conspired to keep wages down in the steel industry. They held the actions of the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company primarily responsible for the death and destruction that reigned over the city. The strikers won an immediate 10% wage increase and better company housing. But the courts dismissed the grand jury's findings. It would be decades before the industry was finally able to unionize. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2. Our thoughts go out to Damar Hamlin, the Bills player who, I don't know if you saw it on Monday night, and I hope you didn't. You know, it's a clip that shouldn't be out there that everyone's, sharing around, and I'm glad that, on Twitter at least, a lot of people were sharing good clips of Damar. Our thoughts are with him and his family. If you saw this, this young guy into cardiac arrest on a football field. And, I played football for years, and it's one of those things that, could possibly happen. A freak thing could possibly happen. Injuries are part of the game. Your mind is, but that, what was a routine play, now you've got this young man in the prime of his life, healthiest he's probably ever going to be, fighting for his life. And what was interesting is, immediately they were like, 5-minute warm up and everybody get back to the game. And the players, and this is where, again, the players are like, no, we're done today. Game over. And this is one of those things where I'm going, this is the power of workers, of having some say in their workplace. The union, the players' union, is the one that said, no, we're not going back. It wasn't the owners. The owners were like, get back out there. And what I found interesting, and again, I'm kind of shocked about, at the people who are shocked that the NFL doesn't care about its players. These are the same people who think that their employers care about them. They don't. You're just a negative on a balance sheet. And every football player, anybody who's ever played, knows you're in the game as long as you can play. The second you get hurt, there's someone that comes in behind you. And this was the same kind of thing, but this was so traumatic that people were like, no, we're done for the day. And what's interesting is, again, everyone then goes to the extreme. This is why we should never have football, and it should be the end of it. And I'm like, no, I'm not there with you. You go on to any football field, baseball field, basketball, hockey, anything. You know that there's a chance, slim, but there's a chance that something catastrophic could happen. But for me, it's this callousness that that we're finally maybe this could turn into something positive. And I want something positive. I want this young man to get up and run out of that hospital And if he chooses to go back to playing and that's his choice, I wish that for him. But, the amazing thing is we still have it in our head that we're as working people more than just a negative on the balance sheet. And this kind of situation kind of highlights that for me. I was looking at a lot of the comments that people, and I got a bunch of emails from folks, chiming in. And I'm like, I'm not surprised by it. Look, I've been on fields where people have been pretty badly hurt. They cart them off and the game starts again. This was different. This was different in that the players said, no, we're not now. And I think that's a step forward. And the lesson in this, if something positive can come out of a horrible tragedy like this, is that collectively, people have power. Government is not the answer to our problems. We are the answer. If we can come together, you know what? I'll bet you wouldn't have found 3 or 4 people in that stadium who said, "Oh, get them back to the game. I drove out here for the game. Get them back." I bet you there weren't but 3 or 4. People were united in that moment. For me, that's the point in this. And, coming out of this holiday season, you saw a bunch of feel good stories. Trying to make work less horrible, I guess. I came across a story about Walmart. They got a guy who's 103 years old working in the lawn and garden section. And this is, oh my God, this is great. And look, this may be what he does to get up in the morning. It may be a good thing for him. But the sad reality is most of the people you see working in those jobs who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, they're not doing it because they want to. They're doing it because we have such a badly dysfunctional system for working people that for most people, there's no retirement, and it's going to get worse. This football player, he's only been in the league, I guess, 2 years? He's not covered by the pension. So if he never plays another down, he never gets another dime. As I understand, their disability went significantly lower. So anything bad that happens to him, they're not going to compensate for. Now, maybe he's got an insurance policy. Maybe he's got something. Maybe. But the league of owners, the employers, do they care? Oh, they'll take care of him. Will they? And this is one of those moments where, again, out of this horrible tragedy, out of this negative is an opportunity to have a conversation about, how things should be. Should workers have the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to withhold my labor like those players did? Now, the league is not going to punish them in this moment because it would be a PR nightmare for them to do. But, they probably want to. And, there'll be some kind of, PR thing to address this. But ultimately, it's about the money. And the more it's about the money, the less they're going to care about you or me or anyone. And that's not just in football. That's in everything you do. That's in every job. Someone, sent me this sign, and the sign is meant to be a joke. In fact, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the sign, it says, funsigns.com or something like that. But it says, company policy. Sick days. We no longer accept a doctor's note as proof of sickness. If you're able to go to the doctor, you're able to come to work. I've actually heard people say that. Personal days. Each employee will receive 104 personal days a year. They're called Saturday and Sunday. No days off for you. No kids' soccer games. No school nights. None of that stuff. Vacation days. All employees will take a vacation at the same time each year. Vacations are as follows: January 1st, Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, December 25th. Yeah, there are places that think you are just a tool. Now, again, this is supposed to be a joke. But for far too many people, it's reality. For far too many people, the situation that happened on the field the other night, where, nope, cart them off, bring somebody else in. That's the reality. Now, I know. The show must go on. or so we're told. But this is where we, hopefully putting down our differences, because again, this is the Bills and the Bengals. They each had their hats. They literally were wearing their hats. They were wearing their jerseys in the stands and on the field. And then that moment, they were all united, which shows me that we can. But does it have to always happen at the end of a tragedy? Does it have to be a tragedy that pulls us together? I'm looking at what's going on in the House of Representatives. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that there are people who are so hell-bent on power that they're going to hold the nation hostage. Now, personally, I'm okay with it. Let them, because this means no bad ideas are going to come out. And look, I don't think they're going to pass anything because of this kind of divide, this kind of division, this kind of infighting. Because again, their personalities are more important. Their characters are more important than the greater good. And this is what the right has brought us. The me over the we. The question is how long are we going to put up with it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you find your favorite podcasts, you will find ours. Right back after this. Stick around.
Country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from side, let freedom ring.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We have done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So how's the GOP clown show going for you? Is it everything that we were told it was going to be? Are the ratings good? Like I said at the beginning, this is what we were expecting. You knew this was coming. You knew the show. You got the popcorn there, everything ready. And I had a bunch of people say, well, today looks like yesterday. Yeah, tomorrow's probably going to look a lot like yesterday too. but here to share some thoughts on, well, just how fun and entertaining this whole process has been. I've asked our good friend Bob Ney to come talk with us. Bob's a former Ohio congressman and political analyst. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
So let's jump into the middle of this. Thoughts? Did you think it was going to be, what are we on, 7 now? Going on 8? Do you think it was going to, is this what we thought?
Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day. This may go on a while. No, I didn't think this was going to happen because never in the time that I was there did I witness either party take a leadership vote to the floor that they didn't have. It doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen.
No.
Now, when I see members, there was one from Florida. I don't even want to go into Gates, but there were some others that said this is invigorating. No, it's embarrassing. It's sad, and it is uncalled for that this is happening at all. 20 people within the Republican side are holding the floor hostage, holding the process, the committees, the pay, for the staff. Everything's being held hostage. So that's one, problem that's out there. But the second is that no matter how this ends up, Rick, no matter how it ends up, whether McCarthy yields or McCarthy keeps going for 3 weeks, whatever happens, there's not going to be the ability, I would doubt, there's not going to be the ability of people to come back together and say, well, we fought the good fight, now we're going to go at it. There's always going to be about 5 people that are going to wake up, maybe have breakfast together in the House dining room and say, I think we ought to take the speaker out today.
Yep.
I think we ought to change the course of the entire floor today. 5 people on the Republican side are going to continue to do that. There's not going to be healed wounds because they went to the point here. And look, this isn't about, defending McCarthy as the best speaker that we could have ever imagined. But the fact remains that nobody else in the privacy of the caucus when they had the vote last year, the end of December, nobody had the majority of votes that he had. Once you get somebody with the majority of votes, that's your leader. It would be like Nancy Pelosi, would get 90% of the votes in the Democrat caucus and say 10% said, we want somebody else. And then all of a sudden that 10% tries to hijack her. And here's the problem with most of the Freedom Caucus is behind us. Rick, here's the number one problem. They are used to saying no with no game plan, no compass. It's just no. We're the no people. And this time, if McCarthy goes into self-imposed stoppage of this entire thing, if he does that, then what? They don't have a candidate that can make it. They don't have one.
Well, this is where the talk of a consensus candidate comes in. I heard Brian Fitzpatrick's name being thrown around, and I'm going, Democrats, no, this isn't the moment for Democrats to come in and save the day. This is a moment for Republicans to look at their party and go, this is what you've got. Because no matter who the speaker is, those 20 Republicans are still going to be a thorn in his side. And I said from the beginning, I want Kevin McCarthy to be speaker. I want him to get everything that he wants because those 20 people are going to make his life, well, not pleasant.
Well, it's going to be worse than John Boehner. You had John Boehner, then you had Speaker Ryan from Wisconsin. Boehner, of course, got his arms ripped off. Look, the worst place to have an automobile accident is in the middle of the road, and that's what he tried to do. People didn't trust him. He said one thing, his staff said something to another group of people, and he ended. He quit. Ryan came in and survived. Finally, Ryan at the end is like, I don't want to do this anymore. McCarthy will be in worse condition, far worse than John Boehner ever was. At least John Boehner had a bit of a honeymoon period. This is an instant divorce. If he becomes the speaker. But you're right. The Democrats at some point in time, let's say this goes on for 3 weeks, then I think the Democratic side can come in to say, here's a possible way we run our government. Yes, I think they can. But to have those discussions now would be useless because the Republicans, with a slight majority, they still won. It's their problem to constitute a government. And here's the biggest problem they have. And if the Democrats are smart, Well, I'll tell you what they can do next year with amendments this year. But if they're smart right now, let it sit, because here's the theme: the Republicans can't run a government that they can't even constitute.
I agree. But here's the problem, and this is the same kind of fight that we talked about back when they were taking Marjorie Trainwreck Green off the committees. I was going, horrible idea. Why are you saving them from themselves? Saddle them with that albatross. Make them deal with their own problems. And to me, this is it. Continue doing what they've been doing for the last 6-7 votes. Vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Stay unified. Stay on the same page. And let the Republicans have the clown show. Because look, we all know nothing's going to happen in the House anyway, because Republicans aren't going to let it happen. So this is part of the performance.
Well, you're right. They're going to constitute a government eventually. They have to. I would think they're going to constitute a government that's not going to work, because they can investigate all day long. They can investigate Hunter Biden. They can investigate Joe Biden. They can investigate the White House dog. I don't care who they want to investigate. Here's their problem. Investigations aside, look, Democrat side learn some of this too. Investigations aside, you have to have your mantra, your public policy, what you want to do. People are out here, this better than anybody. You're a grassroots blue collar guy. You know that every morning people are sitting there at their breakfast table thinking, how do I get through today? How do I pay for this? How do I pay for that? Consumers are being bludgeoned by corporations rising these prices. And so that has to be the point of business for the Republicans, but it's not going to be the point of business because, yes, investigations, they'll be aligned on that. Nobody will complain within the Republican side what they want to do. But on the public policy side, every day is going to be a war zone, every single day. And eventually, if you want to do something, you are going to have to look to the Democratic side.
No, especially with these 20, Scott Perry, my congressman, being one of them. Especially with these 20 who are the fly in the ointment, the sand and the Vaseline. Right. And look, they're not going to pay a price for this. And this is the sad part of our political system and how our districts are gerrymandered. And we can go down the list of why they're not going to pay a price for this, because those people are put in there to do exactly what they're doing. There's no consequence for them to hold things up because they don't believe in government. They think government's broken. And look, they're showing us.
But that's okay for 20 of them. Here's the problem, and I was saying what the Democrats could do this upcoming year. Here's the problem, Rick, for the Republican side. If the Democrats really think about this and craft amendments to every single bill that comes to the floor, amendments that the 20 say, oh, that's ridiculous, we don't want this to pass, but a group of Republicans in marginal districts or not so safe districts sit there and go, ooh, it's hot on the floor. I'm sweating over this one. They're going to have to go with Democrats on the amendments. When they do that, the 20 are going to go, well, you ought to not be in the Republican Party. You went with the Democrats. They're controlling the floor of the House. There is the smart avenue for the Democrats to take. Craft really good, spicy, sexy amendments, as we call them, that on the floor, marginal districts have to say, I got to vote for that. Then the 20 are going to go after the speaker and say, well, we want them thrown out. The Democrats won the floor today. That's public process, but they're not going to like it. So the 20 will disrupt even further when the public process comes, because those 20 are used to no only. They are not used to policy.
No, and you're spot on accurate. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with former Ohio Congressman Bob Ney. But here's the thing, and this is where, again, I come back to these people aren't about governing. It's about, podcasts and Fox News and getting attention on talk radio. It's about the performance. And we've seen this in the speeches. I mean, I've been watching this and I'm going, do we have to go through all of these moments of, hey, look at me, cast your vote, move on, let's get through this? Do we have to have this performative stuff so that they get their 15 seconds to get, hey, look at me? Does that have to happen?
Well, not only should that not have happened, here's the other thing. And I listened last night pretty intensely to former Speaker Newt Gingrich. And if you listen to what he said, and I made a couple phone calls to D.C. today just to ask about this topic, and the answer I got back, without quoting names because they're terrified, but the answer is yes, Gingrich was accurate. On the news last night, Gingrich threw one thing out there that I thought was fascinating. He spoke about how this shouldn't be happening, and the 20 lost, but they should go with the majority of the members, et cetera. But then he made a statement that, and this rings of Newt Gingrich, he made a statement that they're not after policy. They made 30 requests, 30 this morning, changes, and the day before of the incoming speaker to be for things they wanted, committees, offices, trips, things they wanted. They were after him for that, not public policy. So this wasn't about, at this point in time, the great philosophy. They came with brand new things. Look, he already gave everything away except every member of his family. McCarthy gave everything away. Yeah. And then they still came yesterday and today wanting more things. But again, not all of it's public policy. It's a give me. This is what I want for my own political power in the U.S. House.
Oh, see, that's an important point to make, and I'm glad you made that, because again, it goes back to that. It's about me, not about we. It's about what can I get, what's going to raise my star on Fox News or on the podcast circuit. You're spot on.
Right, and because some of these people are people that are out there saying, I'm doing this, and I've read some of it today, for the integrity of the system. I'm doing it because I believe in it. Yet some are running to McCarthy saying, can I have this special little committee? Can I be the out front press person? Can I do this type of outreach? Maybe some special committees that go across the United States. All of that junk is going on that should never be going on in a speaker's race, ever.
So let me ask you the other side of this then. Since this is now the moment where the representatives are now going, hey, what's in it for me? Isn't this where like going back to earmarks, where you would go, hey, I got to take stuff back to my district? Isn't this where maybe the system was a little bit better when they were thinking about taking things back to their district to make themselves look better, instead of just, hey, how can I enrich myself now in the spotlight, or am I off base?
No, you're on. Look, the earmarks, and every time I read an article, and they'll throw my name in there. No, we didn't earmark for Jack. All right, Jack asked for an amendment that we considered that we didn't do. But yes, earmarks were done. We had a couple of members that earmarked, and they got goods and rugs and things for it. You don't ruin the entire system because a few people or people like myself were wheeling and dealing with Jack Abramoff. You don't throw the system out. Here's a point I used to tell my constituents. I go around the district. I meet with council people. I meet with unions. I meet with development people. I meet with community leaders. I go back to D.C. and say, hey, the consensus was we want that bridge. We want this building. We want this program. Now, who better to bring that back as an earmark, me or somebody unelected, a bureaucrat in D.C. that doesn't even know where, Blair, Ohio is, right. Or Carlisle, Pennsylvania. They don't know. No, earmarks are perfectly fine. Here's what you do with them to wrap this up. You put the person's name on it. Ney asked for this, Smith asked for that, and then it ends any problems if there's anything going on that shouldn't be. So the earmarks are good, and the earmarks are for the good of the district. These are personal earmarks being requested. Can I have this office? By the way, there's little hideaways under the Capitol. Very few. Right. I know. I used to be part of dishing them out. There are very few hideaways. Not enough for members. Members, it's like gold. I'll bet you somebody's like, can I have a hideaway? Can I have that one, please?
The George Santos guy, I'm sure he's begging for a hideaway.
Yeah, but he'll put a false name on the front of it. It won't be Santos. It'll be Pelosi or something else.
Did you hear that they're making McCarthy move his stuff out of the speaker's office, and that they actually gave his office away? So he's actually legislatively homeless at this moment.
Right. Yeah, because they have a lottery. That's the other thing I wanted to tell your listeners. Besides the fact that this is so rotten for the system, which I recognize, this is sad. It became sort of humorous at first, and then you look at it and you're like, this isn't the way government should work, and they should be embarrassed. But there's also another side to this. People that went door to door for their candidate, family, people that dedicated 2 years of their life stuffing envelopes, doing phone calls, they all came to DC to see their members sworn in and have the beginning of the rules and the floor of the House and all the pomp and ceremony to it. And also staffers happen to like to be paid.
Yeah.
It's nice, so you can, keep your electric on. None of that is occurring. They came to DC, the supporters, and went, this is it? This is what happens? I mean, what a personal letdown for people. I'm sure a lot of members had to turn to their crowds, because we used to have people come out, maybe 50, 60 people, and say, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that this has happened.
Wow. So do you see an end to this, or does this just continue to go on unless McCarthy pulls back? And do you see a consensus candidate? Is it Mike Gallagher or Brian Fitzpatrick? Do you see that? Or I've heard Scalise's name thrown around. Do you see them solving this?
They're going to go after Scalise, who's probably the one in line. They're going to go after him the same as they did McCarthy, I think. That's the problem. So they're going to have to probably dig a little deeper, although Scalise, will do a little better than McCarthy. I'm not sure he'll, pass that threshold he needs to pass. So right now, consensus candidate's not in the mix. But if this goes on for about 7 or 8 days, the government is not functioning. The clerk of the House, unelected, is running the entire U.S. House. And so if this goes on too much, a good consensus candidate, I think, could be thrown out there. I don't see that as the logical next step. Here's the problem with McCarthy. The problem for the 20, I'll call them, the Freedom Caucus 20. If McCarthy steps out tonight, who? Jim Jordan of Ohio will never get the McCarthy supporters. This thing has now frayed feelings. There's anger. It's not going to heal in a matter of, we got a brand new candidate in a matter of an hour. This thing is so frayed. I can't see where, I think McCarthy has to continue on till maybe members get pressure from back home of, hey, constitute a government. I don't know. I thought I could see an end to this. I thought it'd go 2 ballots, Rick, and be done. I'm not sure. I still think McCarthy hangs in there, and eventually I think the ace in the hole, the big guy from Florida, gets on the phone, which he's done, but he gets on the phone again. Maybe he starts promising fundraisers for some of the mega supporters.
Maybe he's sweetening the pot with a little bit of something extra that the speaker can't dole out.
That's right. Hey, I'll come in your district twice for you next year. I'll put you on my, what's his network or whatever. I'll put you on one of my social. Yeah. I'll put you on as Batman on my cards. I'm super. He could do that.
Isn't this sad? I mean,
this is Matt from Florida in a Batman outfit, right? Come on.
This is what you get with patronage government, isn't it?
Yes, and you made the best point. This isn't an earmark that's for the good of the district. Nope. This is a personal earmark. That's what's going on.
Wow. Sad, scary stuff. But I look forward to you coming back and keeping us up to date on this and sharing some more thoughts.
I will be back in 2 months when we still don't have a speaker.
As the clown show continues. As always, Bob, I appreciate the time, man.
Thank you, Rick.
Good stuff. Our good friend Bob Ney. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back. Stick around.
Over 70 years of experience in heart and aviation, the members of the Association of Flight Attendants know the realities of the aircraft cabin better than anyone. We don't just serve drinks, we save lives. We don't just negotiate contracts, we move major policy issues like the smoking ban, no knives on planes, clean water, and safe food on board. The air we breathe matters, and we stop the spraying of poisonous pesticides. Training, rest, and no calls on planes matter as we fight fires, de-escalate conflict, revive, and breathe life. We safely usher passengers to the big business deal, the family vacation, the times of celebration, times of grief, and times of battle. We are aviation's first responders, and we are the last line of defense in aviation security. We are the first impression and the smile of aviation, connecting the people of our nations. Fly with us, partner with us, make progress with us. The Association of Flight Attendants. Stronger together, better together.
Calling all builders. all welders and roofers, engineers and electricians, calling all brick masons and boiler makers, steel workers and steam fitters. Your country is calling you to rebuild America, to create a cleaner, safer, more prosperous future for all. Tackling climate change, this is the job of our lifetime. It's time to build back better. Let's get to work.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry, clean energy? We're talking jobs, millions of them, the type that pay well and can't be outsourced. Because the thing about clean energy, it's all right here, American made. It means lower utility costs for families, and it's how we take on climate change. An investment in clean energy is a big win. Congress, let's get it done.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Great to be back after, like I said, a little vacation, a little time away. We were supposed to be back yesterday, but we're breaking ground on a new studio space, which, because we've just grown in such enormous ways that we need more space, more technology. We need, now got to bring in some more stuff. So we need more room. So we're breaking ground on a new studio space. And the person who was running the backhoe, leveling the ground, hit the internet wire and basically knocked us out. So, today was spent fixing that disaster. Because, when this stuff happens, it's bad. I mean, that's the best I can go with. It's bad. And coming back from vacation, you're still trying to get the cobwebs out and still trying to figure out, hey, which way are we going? How do we get back in the swing and then to have catastrophe happen? So if you were wondering where were you yesterday? That's where it was. I wish we were still on the beach, to be honest. Wish we were still there because it was a beautiful trip. Family had a great time. And I had one of these magic moments. And over the years, one of the things that I've done for Christmas is I don't buy stuff. I'm not a stuff person. I give my kids things to do. We'll go to sporting events throughout the years. We'll take a weekend away and go do things. That's the present. That time, that experience, that place, that all of that. And what we've done for the last number of years, probably a decade now, except for the pandemic years, is we run off to Florida and we spend 2 weeks on the beach together. A couple of little presents, little things that the kids, little things that they want. None of these huge hours of opening stuff. But I had this cool moment where my son, we're out in the ocean and we're just kind of, riding the waves and having a good time. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm really grateful that you give us things to do and experience as opposed to stuff. And it was one of these really cool moments of, he's 16 and he's starting to become a man and he's starting to understand the world a little bit. And it was just one of those kind of maturity moments that I was like, wow. I mean, my wife has done a great job with this boy. But it was kind of a cool thing. And it was one of those things that I wanted to share because I think we get hung up so much in material things that we kind of forget the time and the experiences. And the fact that, he's now getting to a mature point that he can see that and be appreciative of it. Now, it could be just blowing smoke. That's always possible too. But it was one of those kind of cool things. So for me, the holiday experience was just fantastic. And it did give me the opportunity to recharge, re-energize, reconnect. It was a good holiday. I hope you had a good holiday as well. I'd love to hear your experiences, your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com is where you go to get the podcast. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, you will find ours, from Stitcher to Podbean, iTunes, all of those places and more. Also, remember, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, especially if I said something that got under your skin. Great to be back. Looking forward to tomorrow. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.